Okay, comment jokes. Do you guys think post SNL?
I would like to meet my kids.
Brian Regan. If I could make $100 doing comedy, I'll have the world by the tail.
I didn't know that was legal.
To listen to SiriusXM Comedy, activate your subscription now by calling 844-711-8800 or head over to SiriusXM.com to sign up quickly.
With the SiriusXM Platinum VIP plan, you can unlock the ultimate listening experience in up to 2 cars and stream anywhere with 2 app logins. Enjoy our greatest content, opportunities for live VIP experiences, and prioritized customer care. Plus, get access to over 5,000 audio and video concert recordings through nugs.net. Call 844-711-8800 and become a VIP. Offer details apply. Not available in Canada.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I see.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 868.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton. Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people who love the universe. And that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up, fool. I'm trying to see if they'll pass the votes. Sitting here in the beautiful Northern California, Dimdale Hills State Capitol on a beautiful Friday, August 30, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers. Home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. You go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you, where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord did split you too wide. What a beautiful day in Dimdale Hills, California. I love bringing you a Big C Sports podcast on 29 podcast platforms all over the universe and streaming on 4 TV platforms. I want to tell you, got some high school football, Big C's high school football top 10 rankings, and I got some college football previews coming up. Over the weekend, Colorado got a big win last night, 31-26 over North Dakota State. And then San Jose State took down Sacramento State, and I believe that score was 42-24, and Colorado won 31-26. A lot of other big games happening around the country coming up over the weekend, especially the Notre Dame at Texas A&M game and the LSU versus USC down in Las Vegas. I can't wait to see that game coming up over the weekend. Georgia and Clemson. A lot of great games happening. Fresno State and Michigan. Can't wait to see a lot of this, the kickoff to a lot of college football. But I want to see there's something more important going on in Dimdale Hills, California. It's at the state capitol and the assembly. They have a lot happening that's going to shape the future of California. And I love the fact that politics is just like anything else. You got to fight for what you want. You got to get people on your side. And hopefully you get another vote. You got to count all the votes. You got to count all the votes. And that way you can make sure that you can get your voice heard. Today on the Assembly, the State Senate, the third file continued. And I'm telling you, there's so much that we can be grateful for. I myself want to be very grateful, but Senate Bill 1331 and Senate Bill 1403, still waiting for that to be heard. Senate Bill 1050 is already passed, and I believe it was 56-0, so congratulations to that. And then we had a passage of a official state apology. That bill passed. So a lot of other people are still waiting for things to happen. And politics behind closed doors, you never know what happens behind closed doors. But what I do know, when I do my show, it's not behind closed doors. Midnight strike. If you do things behind closed doors, I do not do Big C Sports Podcast behind closed doors, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste, and I don't want to waste my mind. But what I want to do is say, for all the people that love politics, politics is a business that you just got to learn. You got to learn to play the game. With Big C Sports Podcast, I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We should all have more laughter in our lives, and I need to have more laughter in my life. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. And then I do the storytelling. I even do the play-by-play. Curry for three. Yes! Get in the hole in your life. I love saying that. Curry for three. People don't know that I'm talking about myself, if that makes sense to you. And then the show's uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City and streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And then I never missed a show since starting Big C Sports back in the day at Salem Media, and now we have people who missed a day of practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about practice. We have people who miss practice, but I always rise and shine, even on a seminal day like today, and I love doing that with Big C Sports Podcast. I also want to say, on every show, I love giving honor and praise to the Veterans Crisis Line. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know, anybody going through issues, pick up the phone, call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. And it's so good when somebody's leaning back. In fact, I was down in town today by the Capitol, and I bought a Mega Millions ticket. The number's like $627 million. And I said, I'd be back. Yeah, I said I'd be back. And the clerk said, okay, that would be great. All's fair and level, and I will be back, if that makes sense to you. I do want to say what I love about what's going on in the world of politics. It's something where you can feel like you're playing a game. You can get emotional about it. You can wonder what's happening behind closed doors when you're not privy to it. And oftentimes, people can just come out and have their own conjecture. And I don't want to do that. I want to report on the facts. I believe today is a great day, and I'm always going to believe that, especially when you feel God is on your side, if that makes sense to you. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. But just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. God says reparations at last, because a just God wants to do the right thing. And that's what I love doing with Big C Sports Podcast. And then God said, let it be light. I know some of my Christian friends, they say, wait a minute, Big C, you got to tell me where it says that. Well, I just said it. I just told you it's there, if that makes sense to you. But I do believe in taking what we have and making the most of it in this great country. I've seen some bills passed that kind of shocked me at times, and other times you say, well, that's a good cause. And for example, yesterday, I don't remember the name of the bill, but they were asking for clean airline fuel for jet engines, and some people actually voted against it. But I think the bill passed where they want the airline industry to clean up the fuel that spews out of jet engines and ultimately dissipates over the atmosphere, and it comes into the clouds, and we're breathing in that air. And some people fight against that, and other people want to fight for that. So I believe we got to have the best things in life, if that makes sense to you. So at the same time, I do want to, my show is a little bit different today. I may even have some excerpts that I want to play on Big C Sports Podcast, because I know what's more important to me today is not just who won a game. It's not just touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Oh man, Willie, he's going all the way. There are a lot more things more important than old man Willie going all the way, if that makes sense to you. But I do know you got to get your mind right when it comes to politics, and things are there for us to listen to and to learn. And I want to do the best I can in listening and learning. I want to make sure that with Big C Sports Podcast that I'm not just feeding you shucking and jiving. I don't believe in shucking and jiving. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But I do want to say I got to get to a lot of stuff today, and I don't have a lot of time to get there. Like they said, Smoking the Bandit, we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. You want to see old Bandit run? I got to run. I got to run, Bandit run. I got to see, before I get into some politics in Dimdale Hills, California, because you know I love it. I love talking about things that are really factual. I don't like guessing. I don't want guesswork. I want to be very factual in things that I talk about with Big C Sports Podcast, and that's part of what I want to do with today's show. So I hope you can bear with me, because I may be jumping around some. You always jumping around, Big C. I always jumping around, and I'm going to jump around some more today on the Big C Sports Podcast because that's what it is. There are things that are going on, and I have to step away so I can get my show done, and then get back in there and watch what the politicians are doing. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But I want to have a lot of faith. I want to have faith the size of the grain of a mustard seed. May lightning strike. I'm going to have the faith the size of the grain of a mustard seed. And I know there are times when people want to know what's going on in the world of sports. And you want to know, we all got to figure it out. California reparations bill headed to California Governor Gavin Newsom's desk after a historic vote, and that was yesterday. Still waiting on things to happen today. One of 3 reparations bills set to go to Governor Gavin Newsom's desk after passing out some of the California Assembly, and that happened earlier in the week. And now that's Senate Bill 1050 would establish a means of restoring property seized in race-based uses of eminent domain to the original owners of the descendants, or alternatively providing them with financial compensation. The vote was 56-0. 56 yeas and 0 nays. It took place on the anniversary of the civil rights leader's reparations advocate, the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his 1963 speech, "I have a dream." Isn't that something? What a great time for that bill to pass yesterday. And then today, we have 2 more bills that are still waiting to be voted on. But they've already passed the first 2 phases. That's Senate Bill 1403. It will create the California American Freedmen Affairs Agencies, which is tasked with helping administer reparations, and the government agency would have its own genealogy office and Office of Legal Affairs to support reparations claims. It would also have the power to oversee and monitor existing state agencies and departments' implementation of reparations measures that fall within their scope of authority. Senate Bill 1331, still waiting on that. May have been happening right now as I'm doing Big C Sports Podcast. It will set up the fund for reparations and reparative justice in the state treasury to finance reparations. Initiatives approved by the legislator and the governor. The 3 bills championed by State Senator Stephen Bradford emerged out of recommendations included in the California Reparations Task Force, the groundbreaking final report that was mandated by California Governor Gavin Newsom and California Secretary of State, the inimitable Dr. Shirley Weber. The task force groundbreaking final report of 1,065 pages of policy blueprint was designed to address generations of harms against African American people in the Golden State from the enslavement era, as I have my sneeze button, through the enslavement era to the present day. And the legislation has already passed out of the Assembly Judiciary Committee and the Assembly Appropriations Committee, and as well as one approval in the state Senate. So it looks really good from there. And there's so many people that are thankful. Chris Lodges is an organizer. He mentioned that it passed on the floor of the Assembly, and he's thankful to a lot of great people. Assembly member Tina McKinnon and also Senator Bradford of California for moving these bills forward. At the same time, we're still waiting for the vote on SB 1403. and SB 1331. They're not yet voted on, unless it's happened since I've started doing the Big C Sports podcast. So we will see. The last step for the Assembly, the full Assembly vote is Governor Gavin Newsom's signature. This fiscal year, the state's budget proposal set aside $12 million for implementation of reparations legislation, which may be a good sign for a positive outcome. And that's my story. I'm sticking with it. May like this strike. Give that some praise. Give that praise, praise, praise. I love giving that praise. As I want to tell you, I believe in the fight for reparations. And with Big C Sports Podcast, I want to be on top of that as much as I am on top of anything. I know everybody has their own thoughts about how things happen. Sometimes things take a little bit longer. But you don't give up. You don't quit. You don't stop. You don't give up. And that's why I love bringing you Big C Sports Podcast. I want to bring you to what I have. It's a commercial that I have coming up. And you got to pay attention because it may be a quiz when I'm done. It's called A Guide to Protect, Preserve, and Transfer Wealth, Resource Development Consulting, in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and George Jones, The Missing Link, Long-Term Care Solutions by the Book. Over 3 decades of experience helping seniors get their benefits. Medicare and You, and Taking Care of Tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. In other states, it's called Medicaid. Your family and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs. You can find out your options. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. And tell them Big C sent you. I promise to you, specialized to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without a spend down. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by a staff of entitlement specialists. We have ongoing consulting, including providing updates as necessary, benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medications, medical equipment costs, and more. You know, have you ever dealt with anyone who had to deal with skilled nursing facilities? Have you ever dealt with anyone who had to deal with medical prescriptions? You know, like the one you took this morning, and I took them too. Have you ever known anyone to deal with medical equipment costs and more? But not only that, protection of your assets, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family. For example, the passage of Senate Bill 1050, protection of assets that were already seized. And now there's opportunity to get them back for descendants of chattel slavery that had the state bulldoze over properties through eminent domain and not given a fair wage for those properties. Now that needs to be signed into law by California Governor Gavin Newsom. And then we have a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. If you don't have a will and a trust at the end of life, probate court, they will have one for you, and you will not like it. So you got to make sure you take care of that. Get your will and your trust together. But not only that, I'm not done yet. I told you it's a beautiful Friday. It's a beautiful, beautiful, happy Friday. We have asset protection. What is asset protection, BC? Well, I'm glad you asked about asset protection. Because when you think about it, we have, in conjunction with the law office of Attorney George Jones and Attorney Scott Thibodeau, protection insurance coverage required by a law of general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal, planning for long-term care, avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance, pre-planning and avoid the look-back period. A trust protects your fixed assets, your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, your money market accounts, your certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, your fixed index annuities. And for people that say I talk too fast, variable assets are also protected. Your real estate, your qualified money, your IRAs, your 401ks, and other investments. I can't talk that slow. I'm doing the best I can to get everything in, and I only got an hour to do it, if that makes sense to you. Avoid capital gains. Let's say you buy a house for $100,000. You know, the government's giving illegal aliens down payments for houses. And here we are asking for reparations. And I'll say it again. The government, California has a California Dream program, and it's happened in other parts of the country as well. They're giving illegal aliens, immigrants, undocumented citizens, down payment for a house. And I got to read more into the bill because some places you don't even have to make a down payment. They're saying you can pay it back when the house appreciates. You'll pay back the down payment plus half the appreciation. I have a question for you. If someone gives you a house that's free and clear, would you ever sell it? Would you ever refinance it? No! Why would you? So that, to me, it doesn't make any sense that the state of California is doing that and then taking the time on reparations for people who are here legally. Oh, big see, there you go again, one thing to be legal. People who are here legally, not getting down payments, assistance, and not getting houses free and clear. It averages about $4,500 a month that people are getting, immigrants, in this country. That make any sense to you? No, it doesn't. And some of those same people argue against reparations. Doesn't make any sense. Attention business owners, attention business owners, attention business owners. Find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. But I'm not done yet. When someone says work with them, you want to ask them, well, who are your endorsements? Is there anyone already working with you? And sometimes they won't tell you that because they don't have any endorsements. With the RDC team, we do have endorsements, and we give them to you. The late James Gomez, who advised 4 California governors and led change in California's nursing homes. He served on Golden One's board of directors for 21 years. The late James Gomez, the CEO of the California Association of Health Facilities. You got to give that some praise. But not only that, the late Robert Carlson, top legal counsel for CalPERS. He endorsed the RDC team. I've been told there's a book called The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Anyone that believes that we don't need reparations, read The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. That was given to me by Marilyn White, a financial advisor. She told me about it yesterday. And I want people to just get that book. If you have any questions about reparations for the descendants of chattel slavery and for giving illegal aliens down payment for a house, if that makes sense to you. But not only that, with those endorsements, we have the endorsements of Attorney George Jones. He's the chair of the California Black Caucus, Black Chamber of Commerce, also the California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Also, Mr. Leon Woods, a resource development consultant, works with many of the top lobbyists, and I've seen many of them today in the state of California. We have the endorsement of Ms. Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. We have Mr. Ray De La Cruz, the CEO of Resource Development Consulting, been doing this thing for over 34 years. And we have Mr. Alex De La Cruz. He's the founder of American Veteran Benefits. He endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Charlton Curry, the co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project. I endorse the RDC team. Also owner of Big C Sports Corporation. I endorse the RDC team. Also business development consultant with the RDC team. But not only that, we have Double O, the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. Also consultant with the RDC team and has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. You can Google it on Access Sacramento. I say, you got to give it all praise. I say, give it praise, 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 because we know a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I'm going to tell you, I don't want to lose my mind, but I do want you to hear the greatest speaker in the history of this country when it comes to reparations. Listen to him with your own eyes and ears.
Martin Luther King, we had a conversation a couple days ago about handouts and how these right-wing memes, these Republican memes, have infiltrated the Democratic debate to suggest that, ending welfare as we know it, all those kind of things are somehow, great and noble things, when we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is that there's no economic opportunity there because of insane trade policies and because of Reaganomics. And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
The problem. At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest. which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America. And it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, you know, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them he murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. You know, it's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
Reparations at last! Reparations at last!
Now, wait. Where those AKAs at? Where they at? You know what? In 3 months, ain't gonna be no living with y'all. I can tell you this. I don't blame Donald Trump for not wanting to debate Kamala. I've been married to a black woman for 40 years, and I ain't won one debate. I'm owing $93,000. Now, of course, Trump is saying that Kamala isn't black. I guarantee you this, Kamala's been black a lot longer than Trump's been a Republican. And if he keeps sliding in the polls the way he is, the only way to keep Kamala out of the White House is if he buys it and refuses to rent it to her. Of course, Kamala's getting broad support. They got black men for Kamala, white men for Kamala, Latinos and Asians for Kamala. They even have Republicans for Kamala. Republicans for Kamala. I guess Donald Trump will finally know what it's like when you get left for a younger woman. Seriously, Kamala knows the truth about the American dream, that hard work is not enough. Hard work alone is not enough to succeed. That you need access and information and opportunity. And she knows that some folks are often denied those very things. As president, she will give each and every one of us a fair shot in life. But I have to admit, I didn't always believe that. I mean, if you told me the 15-year-old me would be on stage supporting a prosecutor and a teacher, there is no way that I would have believed you. But because of that, I made assumptions about Kamala's record. And I often repeated them to a lot of people. Then one day, Kamala invited me to her house. She put her hand on my shoulder and she asked me to do some research. Something I had never done. Something a lot of people I know had never done before. Imagine attacking someone's character without a single Google search. So I did what I should have done in the first place. I learned that she had done for us exactly what she promised to. I believe that your apology should be as loud as your accusation, and I'm here apologizing in front of the whole damn world. I was And I'm so very glad I was wrong because, Kamala, you give me hope for the future, a future where my grandchildren, Nola and Stevie, had the freedom to control their own bodies, where they have the opportunity to go as far as their wits and their talents would take them. That future, ladies and gentlemen, is possible, but only if we elect Kamala Harris as the 47th President of the United States of America. I will say this to you. The best piece of advice I've ever gotten in my entire life is you don't have to know what you will do, just know what you want. And we won't go back.
The great D.O. Hughley talking politics at the DNC on Big C Sports Podcast. I love bringing you a Big C Sports Podcast. May lightning strike! Coming to you from the state capital of Dimder Hills, California. And waiting for more votes to be passed. Count all the votes! You gotta count all the votes on Big C Sports Podcast. I also know that when it comes to sports and reparations, I'm the #1 sports show in the universe. I deserve $100 million! But I'll take the $600 million that they give me tonight. But that's more, isn't it? I guess you're right. I'll take this $600 million. I did tell a lady who sold me the ticket, I said, I'll be back. She said, well, come on back then. I said, I'll be back. She said, well, come on back, because she gets paid on it too. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, I said, no, are you ready for some football? Let's get ready to rumble. I bring you Big C's high school football power rankings, the way Big C Sports does it. You know, I believe in letting them play on the field. I'm going to start from 10 to 1. I got number 10. I got Folsom, California. The Folsom Bulldogs, they are ranked number 10 in Big C's national top 10 high school football teams. They beat Long Beach Poly, a perennial power from Southern California, 63-20 to open the season last week up in Folsom, California, just east of Sacramento. I got number 9 in Big C's college, actually high school football power rankings. I have St. Thomas Aquinas out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now they're 0-1. But they lost the game to a team that's ranked number 2 that I'll get to. They were actually up 21-10, and they ended up losing 29-21 in Florida at home to a team from the West Coast. I got number 8, North Shore. Actually, let me go back to St. Thomas Aquinas, and I want to go back to Folsom. Folsom has won their section in Northern California 8 of the last 10 years. That tells you how good that program is. St. Thomas Aquinas, they have won 6 Florida State championships in the last 10 years. That tells you how good they are. I have number 8, North Shore of Texas. Their season kicks off tonight. I have number 7, Duncanville, Texas. Their season also kicks off tonight. I have number 6, Corona Canyon out of Utah. They are 2-0 in the season. They shocked last week IMG Academy out of Bradenton, Florida. That game was played in Utah. I have number 5, DeSoto, Texas. They kick off tonight. I have number 4, Milton, Georgia. They are 2-0. I have number 3, St. John Bosco of Bellflower, California. They are 1-0. They went to Florida and they beat Madonna. It's called Shauna Madonna of Hollywood, Florida, one of the top high school football programs in Florida. St. John Bosco of Bellflower out of the Trinity League, California's runner-up team, beat Shauna Madonna, Hollywood, Florida. And Shauna Madonna, Hollywood, Florida had won 3 straight state championships in the state of Florida in the large school division. I have number 2, Bishop Gorman out of Las Vegas, Nevada. They are 2-0. They came from behind and beat number 9, St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida by the score of 29-21. And again, Bishop Gorman, obviously a dominant team. They play number 1, Santa Ana Mater Dei, Southern California, the Trinity League champions, and defending California and national champions, Mater Dei Monarchs. They are 1-0. They beat Centennial Corona, California, 42-25 to open the season into Southern California powerhouse. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Give it praise. I say give it praise. It all starts at the high school level, and Big C brings it to you from the high school level all the way to the world of college football. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I say California has the best high school football programs out there, but the Pac-10 and the Pac-12 went away. Doesn't make any sense now that the Pac-2, Washington State, and Oregon State. So I wonder if they get an automatic bid when they win the Pac-2 championship. We'll see what happens. I got college football, the picks for week 1 of college football. Had some great games last night. San Jose State knocked off the Sacramento State. They were down 14-0, and they came back to win 42-24 in San Jose. And then another game that happened last night in Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado. The Colorado Buffaloes came and they conquered, and they beat the North Dakota State Bison by the score of 31-26. All's fair and love and war. That's what I love about college football. It's such an exciting game. You either love it or you don't, but you can't say the kids don't play their hearts out. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. So we have tonight, week 1 of the 2024 college football preseason. It's not really preseason. It's before the league games start. Thursday, I told you about some games that happened Thursday. So Friday night brings us another slate of exciting action. 5 of the evening's 6 contests see Power 14 making their first appearance of the season, including 1 AP Top 25 team and number 16 Oklahoma. The Sooners start an important year under 3-year coach Brent Venables with a home showdown against Temple, and this will be notably Oklahoma's first contest as an SEC team. They're now in the SEC. They were in the Big 12 conference. It's amazing how many conferences have changed. A lot of people fought name, image, and likeness NIL, but they realize that conferences are changing and teams go from one conference to another. Oklahoma won't find it as easy going in the SEC as they found it going in the Big 12. That's my story that I'm taking with it. So a big win against a team as a heavily favored will be just as important. A pair of new coaches are also set to make their debut, and Duke's Manny Diaz did it last night with a win, and Michigan State's Jonathan Smith. Now, Diaz's return to the ACC is worth watching. He coached at Miami from 2019 to 2021. He led the Miami Hurricanes to 3 straight bowl games. In the nightcap, 1 week will feature intriguing no-conference games when TCU travels to Stanford to take on the Stanford Cardinal in Palo Alto, California. Now, the Horned Frogs, they have a good team, but they came out of a national championship beat down by Georgia. I believe it was 65-7, and they had a 5-7 campaign last year. While Stanford hopes to enter back into bowl contention after 3 straight losing seasons, and now we'll see what happens with the Stanford Cardinal. They are part of the ACC conference since the Pac-12 no longer exists. Be sure to stick with a lot of the sports coverage throughout the evening for college football coverage from opening kickoff. I got to look at some of the teams coming up over the weekend. Western Michigan at Wisconsin, 9 o'clock p.m. kickoff on Fox Sports 1 and Fubo TV. In Luke Fickell's first year in Wisconsin included a couple of less than inspiring wins against a group of 5 opponents who were able to keep the score close, even in defeat. That probably should not happen Saturday when Western Michigan is coming off a 4-8 season. And though it brings back plenty of stars from one of the MAC's best offenses, the defense ranks 6th worst in the nation in yards allowed per play. That doesn't look well when you're playing against a team like Wisconsin. Wisconsin's new-look offense under quarterback Tyler Van Dyke, it should be able to put up plenty of points on the board, and the Badgers have even the talent defensively, especially in an underrated secondary led by cornerback Ricardo Hallman, to keep the Broncos out of the end zone. And I think I'm going to cover that 23.5 point spread. I got to go with Wisconsin. TCU is Stanford. Kickoff 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on ESPN and Fubo. Opening games are the hardest to predict because of the uncertainty of both sides. But Stanford with the points seems like the safest bet. The Cardinals are returning most of their production from last season and should be significantly improved in year 2 of Troy Taylor's tenure, who led Sacramento State to 4 straight playoff appearances, and now he's at Stanford. But Stanford should be able to create explosive plays in the passing game. No, they don't have John Elway, but they still have a good passing attack. That's my story. I'm taking with it. And then that could be the difference, their passing attack for the Stanford Cardinal. It would not be surprising if Stanford pulled off the upset and won the game outright. And given Stanford 9.5 point underdog at home, I'm going to go with Stanford to win that game down on the farm. Got number 16 Oklahoma. They will host Temple at 7 p.m. kickoff Eastern Standard Time on ESPN and Fubo TV. That's coming up on Saturday. Oklahoma enters its first game as an SEC member, ranked in the top 20 in the country, and with plenty to prove behind their first-year quarterback. Without question, the Oklahoma Sooners will have no meat left on the bone against a wildly overmatched Temple team. The Hawks expect deep shots early and often as Oklahoma tries to build some confidence and some swagger under its first-year coordinator. I got Oklahoma favored by 42.5, and I think they'll cover. They'll try to make a statement in tonight's game. FAU at Michigan State, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Big Ten Network and Fubo TV. The roster overhaul at Michigan State is real, but the first-year coach, Jonathan Smith, has enough talent to handle the mid-tier ACC program. Even with their program splintering at some time last year, I think they'll be better this year. Michigan State, they beat their opponents. Their opening two opponents by 24 and 31 points. And now Michigan State is reinvigorated by a fresh regime and a potential star at quarterback. And Oregon State transfer, it is Childs. The season will have enough patches because there's a lot of tough teams in the Big Ten with USC, UCLA coming in, Washington, and Oregon. I got Michigan State winning this game by 14 points. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. No matter what you think about college football, it's a game that people love. And for the most part, it's just players trying to find their groove. But it doesn't mean it's going to happen. With the transfer portal, it's made it a lot like college basketball. All the good teams don't necessarily get all the good players now because you can opt out and go to a different team and get a starting spot, and now you have teams opting out going to a different conference. The Big Ten is the biggest shakeup in my opinion. It got stronger, but I still say the SEC is the number one conference. The Big Ten brings in, of course, you have Ohio State, you have Michigan, you have Wisconsin, Penn State, but the only team that's won a national championship or even played for a national championship in the last 2 decades has been Ohio State and Michigan. You got to go way back to the days of Joe Paterno when Penn State played for a national championship. But they bring in Oregon, that's played for a national championship twice in the last 2 years. They bring in the Washington Huskies, that's played for a national championship in the past year. And then USC and UCLA. Now USC hasn't played for a national championship since 2005 with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, but they're always one of the top teams. So I think the Big Ten is strong, but the SEC with the likes of Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, and then you bring in Texas, you bring in Oklahoma, and then you have LSU, the teams in the SEC that have played for a national championship over the last 2 decades. Of course, you have Alabama, you have LSU, you have Florida, you have, as I mentioned, Georgia, I believe also Auburn. Auburn's not as strong this year, but they've been a strong team. That's 5 programs. And then when you throw in the likes of Oklahoma, they played for a national championship, but that was way back in 2009 against Alabama. And then you bring in Texas, who was in the college football playoffs last year. They've been knocked out by Washington. So I still say the SEC is a stronger conference than the Big Ten overall. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I have a few more big games coming up in college football. Florida State fell to Georgia Tech in Ireland. So they started where they finished last year. They finished with a blowout loss to Georgia. They had a field goal loss in their game to Georgia Tech. So Florida State, they have some revenge on their mind, but we'll see. In other games that are of importance, in Florida, you have Miami versus the University of Florida. I got to go with the Miami Hurricanes. At one time, Miami was the Alabama of college football way back in the 90s, but in even the early 2000s. But they've fallen on some tough times of late. But they are a better program this year than they were last year. University of Florida, obviously, they had some great programs back in the mid-2000s. But they're going to get a chance to get together for game day before Gainesville, Florida. The Hurricanes are favored by 2.5, and I got Miami winning that game. As for the Seminoles, they are a 16-point favorite over Boston College, but they were also double-digit favorites against Georgia Tech. But that was in Ireland, jet lag, etc. You can't really expect the same kind of play when players fly that far across the world. At the same time, college football's prediction for week 1, I got to look at the Big Ten, Big Penn State. They're an 8.5-point favorite. I think they'll get that over West Virginia. It's a noontime kickoff Saturday, and I'm looking at Penn State winning that. That's exactly what happened when these two squads played in week 1 of last year. Penn State won 38-15. And obviously, Penn State is good every year. James Franklin has teams always ready to play, and I think they'll be ready to play again this time. The Nittany Lions have dominated with a 49-0 9-2 head-to-head record against West Virginia, including 5 straight double-digit victories. You got to look at Penn State getting this game done as well. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I got Western Kentucky. Alabama's ranked number 5 in the country. They're favored by 31.5 points. Can Kentucky, Western Kentucky, stay within the spread? I think not. I think Alabama's going to roll them. Now, Western Kentucky covered in its last 2 in 2023, while Bama failed to cover in 2 of its last 3 games to end the season. Just as usual, the Tide lost lots of players to the professional leagues, and that's 10 overall in the 2024 NFL Draft. At the same time, in addition to several players to the transfer portal, but their biggest loss was the retirement of Nick Saban, the most successful college football coach of all time, with 7 national championships. It should be another great Alabama season. But they may not start as fast as they would under Nick Saban. Kalen DeBoer, we'll see. He was more of a passing coach, but Alabama's defense will still be good, and their offense is always good. I'm still looking at Alabama to roll Tide in that game. I really believe that Alabama will be right there in the thick of things playing for another SEC championship. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. No matter what you think about college football, there are a lot of good games. I really like coming up on Sunday, Clemson versus number 1 Georgia. Clemson's ranked number 13 in the country. Now, Georgia's favored by 12.5 points, and I think they'll get it. Georgia, they've only lost 1 game in the last 3 years, and that was to Alabama in an SEC championship game that prevented them from playing for their three-peat, and I think they'll get back to the SEC championship this year. Penn State at West Virginia, as I mentioned earlier, an 8.5-point favorite, Penn State, and I say they'll cover. Miami, Florida, in the battle of Florida, they're 2.5-point favorites. I got to go to Miami winning that by a field goal. Akron at Ohio State. The Buckeyes are a 48.5-point favorite, and they'll cover. They will cover. And then Colorado State at Texas. What a big game for Texas. Bringing in Colorado State. 32-point favorite. I got to go with Texas winning that game. Do they cover? Probably not. They'll probably win by 28, if that makes sense to you. Western Kentucky at Alabama. Alabama's favored by 31.5. I think they'll cover. Fresno State at Michigan. And Michigan's favored by 21 points. I don't think they cover, but I think they win. Fresno State can score a lot of points on offense. But Michigan, they're playing Texas next week in the Big House. They're not going to go 0-1 into the Texas game. The Bulldogs will put up a fight, but at the end of the day, the Wolverines will beat the Bulldogs, if that makes sense to you. Notre Dame at Texas A&M at Kyle Station in beautiful Texas A&M. And I got A&M a 3-point favorite. Notre Dame's in it for a tough. They're a good team. They're highly rated all the time. But I got to go with Texas A&M at home in front of 102,000 fans at Kyle Field. They stand almost the entire game. I think the atmosphere and the heat and humidity down in Texas at College Station will be a little bit too much for Notre Dame. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I got UCLA at Hawaii, and they're favored by 14 on the island. And I got to go with the Bruins. They have a new everything, it seems, at UCLA. New conference, new coaching staff. We'll see what happens, but I think they'll beat Hawaii by the 14. The game I really want to see is USC versus LSU. And it's on Sunday at beautiful Las Vegas Allegiant Stadium. LSU's favored by 4.5. I don't see that. Both teams' defense have to improve. USC can flat out put points on the board offensively, and I think they'll put out some points against LSU's defense. LSU's not that good against the pass. USC has a great passing attack, and their defense will be much improved this year. I got USC winning that game by a touchdown. LSU, they don't have the stamina to come to the West Coast and play against the USC Trojans without that heat and humidity being a factor that they would have down south. I got to go with the Trojans winning in the West Coast. Ironically, where they were supposed to play the Pac-12 championship, if they were to win the Pac-12 this year, but the Pac-12's gone. So this is their Pac-12 championship as they take on LSU. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I got Monday, September 2nd, Boston College at Florida State. And Boston College, Florida State is a 16.5-point favorite, and I think Florida State will win that game against Boston College. It's hard to go 0-3, and they've already lost their last couple of games to Georgia and also Georgia Tech. They finally get a team that's not from the state of Georgia. So what do you know? Latin is strike. That's Big C's thoughts, and I'm sticking with it. I I love college football. I love high school football. I covered that. And now I got some news for the West Coast. Obviously, we wanted Senate Bill 1331 to pass and Senate Bill 1403 to pass for California reparations. I'm still waiting for that news. At the same time, I want to take you down to Bang Bang Niner game. Some news from 49er head camp. The NFL, 49ers, and Kyle Shanahan, they lose a key player with injury for the entire 2024 season. Kyle Shanahan, shade. Just got terrible news with the 49ers before the 2024 season broke. And obviously, this team is deep, but you're getting players hurt before the season even starts. The 49ers are favored to reach the Super Bowl again, trying to finally get their revenge on touchdown Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And although Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams are in the middle of huge contract negotiations, Brandon Ayuk signed his contract yesterday. They're expecting Trent Williams to sign next week, if that makes sense to you. At the same time, it should not be a distraction with rosters, players on the names such as Brock Purdy, who needs Trent Williams to protect his blind side, Christian McCaffrey, who led the NFL in rushing last year, and Deebo Samuel, who's a run-pass option every time he's on the field. And then Nick Bosa didn't have the greatest season last year, but he should be back this year. But one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL, they lost a huge piece of their puzzle before the season even kicks off. And it makes things complicated for John Lynch, the GM. But Elijah Mitchell lost for the entire season because he has a hamstring strain. So although Christian McCaffrey is still their starting running back, Mitchell was crucial in bringing in that 1-2 punch when they wanted to give McCaffrey some rest. According to reports, Elijah Mitchell suffered a severe hamstring injury while practicing, and the recovery process would take several months, and he was supposed to be the number 2 running back behind McCaffrey, and now Jordan Mason could get that call. It's a tough business. It's a make-and-miss league in basketball. It's a make-and-miss league in baseball, but it's also a matter of inches in NFL football. To not have him, I feel it might be just a slight setback for the Niners, but obviously you got to rise up to the occasion and play to win the game. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Midnight Strike! You know, I love reparations. I love talking about things that are important to descendants of child slavery. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you, we got to keep hope alive that the politicians will do the right thing in the eyes of God. Could you imagine God going to the altar and saying no after doing everything leading up to the passage of bills that are important to Californians? Going up to the altar, I believe God says yes. God said, Melani's Drake! Don't leave people at the altar. When it comes to praise, Melani's Drake, I want to give some praise to the California Reparations Task Force, the inimitable Dr. Shirley Weber. I want to thank Governor Gavin Newsom, who came together with Dr. Shirley Weber, Secretary of the State of California, to mandate a task force. I want to give them praise as we're waiting on those votes to come through and for Governor Gavin Newsom to sign it. I want to give Camila Moore praise. She's the chair of the Reparations Task Force. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Amy C. Brown, who also came on the BC Sports Podcast. I want to give him praise. I want to give praise to the California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. Saw him today at the state capitol. I want to give praise to Council Member Monica Montgomery Stepp. She's brilliant. I want to give her praise. I want to give praise to Assembly Member Reginald John Sawyer. He's brilliant. I want to give him praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Cheryl Grills. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Donald K. Tamaki, part of the California Reparations Task Force. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. Give them all praise, praise, praise. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want to say, before the weekend comes up, the holiday weekend comes up, there's some bills that are very much on top of the mind. Senate Bill 1050 passed, provides restitution and compensation for eligible residents whose property was taken unjustly by certain state actions. So that passed. And then we're waiting on the passage of, it's already passed the first 2 rounds. Senate Bill 1331 creates a state fund to support current and future reparations funding. Waiting for that to pass. Also, it's already passed the first 2 rounds. And then also waiting on Senate Bill 1403 creates a state agency to help residents verify eligibility to carry out reparations policies. Let it rain, let it rain. Thank God Almighty, let it pass, let it pass. I gotta put in my Buddhist chant. Nam Yoho Renge Yo, Nam Yoho Renge Yo, Nam Yoho Renge Yo. That's what I'm doing, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you on every Big C Sports show, have a happy Friday, everybody. If you're gonna drink, don't drive. If you're gonna drive, don't drink, because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you say may be your own, or someone you love, or someone who loves you, or someone loved by somebody else. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As my beautiful mother always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through crap. If you are, you need more LEADER in your life. LEADER is an acronym for love is the answer. If somebody loves you, they don't hit you. Only hit you because it made me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't kick you. Only kicked you because it made me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't beat you. Only beat you because it made me mad. Pick up the phone and call 911. No man, woman, or child should ever have to put up with that crap. If somebody loves you, they don't hit you, they don't slap you, they don't beat you. Call 911. Things change when the police show up. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As you always know, I love giving them praise to my beautiful family legacy on my beautiful mother's side, my great-grandparents, Mama and Pop. They were beautiful, loving, kind people, always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly. Love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always saying, boy, wash your hands before you get those ribs off that grill. I said, I don't need to wash my hands, and I don't need a plate. I'm hungry now. She said, boy, go wash your hands and get a plate before you burn your hands. I said, ouch. Always should wash your hands and get a plate so you don't burn your hands. Taking the meat off the grill. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then Pop, former military man and former Negro League baseball player. Love getting reparations for them. And then my beautiful grandparents, Muddy and Hezekiah, they were beautiful people. They were seers. They could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past and their present and their future. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. They still help me to this day. And then my beautiful mama. I can always depend on my mama. The most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and also coaching all boys, the Little League baseball team, to the championship of the universe. Always saying rise and shine. The best person I ever met in my life. Mama, I love you with all my heart, my body, and soul. You hear my praise. You hear my praise, praise, praise. You hear my praise, Mama. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. The best person I ever met in my life. On my father's side, my grandparents, Albert and Alberta Curry, they were pastors. They had 3 churches. They also owned 2 gas stations in Oakland. I was 8 years old, walking through the hallway about 10 o'clock at night. I felt somebody touch me on my forehead. And she said, excuse me, young man, what are you doing? Going to get some more cookies? I said, well, what are you doing up, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, what are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies? I said, cookies are baby crap to what I'm doing, Grandma. I'm going to get my reparations. But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt. It's been a long wait. She said, there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. And now Big C Sports podcasts are streaming all over the universe on 29 podcast applications and 4 TV applications. Really do appreciate it. And I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night, always saying develop your mind to its highest extent. I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Then my beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak, always saying go forward. A voracious reader. In fact, he would say don't look back because you don't have much backside back there in the first place. I said I love my backside, Todd. But he said my backside wasn't big enough, so that's why I do more squats, if that makes sense to you. You know, Todd, voracious reader, we love Malcolm X, but we also love the movie Pulp Fiction. It had Sam Jackson, John Travolta, Vin Rames, and Bruce Willis. I love the big fight. Bruce Willis said, he was talking to Vin Rames. Vin said, hey, come sit your butt down, boy. He said, take this money, and remember, your butt goes down in the 5th round. Say that, flip! And Bruce Willis said, okay, my butt goes down in the 5th round. And he told him, that's digging sensation you're feeling? Well, that's just pride. Flubbing with you. And he said what a lot of athletes say to each other. He said, flub pride. He said, pride only hurts. it never helps. He said boxing is filled with a lot of unrealistic muddly bluckers who think that butt gets better with time like fine wine, but it don't. In terms of vinegar, then it do. One day you're going to thank Uncle Marsalis. You're going to say Uncle Marsalis is right when you're chilling in the Caribbean. But we know Bruce Willis didn't take the dives, and he lost his LA privileges. I love to talk with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors, and 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast back at Salem Media. It became the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. Daisy, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. Pray Isaiah 54:17 that no weapon formed against you will prosper. You can be anything you want to be. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. I'm so proud of you. Always rise and shine. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, every night a good man. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper and look up stats for Big C Sports Podcast for players and teams. And one day Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. And now I'm on 29 podcast platforms, streaming on 4 TV platforms. One day Malcolm said, Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You see a show come up. That's the AI he was talking about. That's before it was even on the air. And now it's streaming on 4 TV platforms shortly after. Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon and Fire TV. Malcolm, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, like my great-grandparents coming out of that barn with their church buddies, always saying, you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe, saying, let's get ready to rumble. I love saying, welcome to the show. As we nominated for Big C Sports Podcast, I have no scripts. I have no 3-bit teleprompters. All I have is I have no producer in my ear. I have this gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients call it the third eye. They say the third eye is how you talk to God. And I'm chanting to God. Nam Yoho Renkeyo, Nam Yoho Renkeyo, Nam Yoho Renkeyo. $100 million. Make that $627 million that I won. In the Mega Millions tonight. That's my story. And I'm sticking with it. But as I always tell you on every Big C Sports Podcast, I praise Muhammad Ali. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want a champion. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. That's my story. And now we honor Dr. King and President Abraham Lincoln. What do they say to us? At the state capitol, they say, reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day.